And it was also a bit like a time travel.
Yeah.
Like more like a Berlin in the 90s, or even my childhood memories, something like around the time when the wall came down.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Current Art Podcast. I'm Yaching. Today, I'm sitting in an apartment in Prenzlauer Berlin, which is the former East Berlin, DDR. And together with my friend and architect Anne-Marie Heydeck, we are bringing you with us to a time travel together. We travel to the golden 20s, we travel to the afterwar time, and to talk about and think about how people recreate their life together. I have to be honest, today we did experience some technical issues. So the sound sometimes get disrupted. There's small glitches. It's same process as my friend Anne-Marie is trying to renovating the apartment and trying to find traces of the past tenants and actually getting to know them through those traces they left in the apartment. This is a very exciting story and I cannot wait to share with you.
In August, and first we started to renovate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this flat was really run down, you could say. The former person who lived here, he used to live here for 40 years, they told me.
Oh, wow.
So he lived here from the 80s. I think he never really let anybody inside to do things. He just lived here alone and he had his life working on, I think he was developing photographs, because I found some liquid under my bathtub, like old GDR bottles with the liquid for the darkroom. Basically also in the living room.
Yeah.
I had to redo all the walls. I think, in Berlin we used to have ovens, like these big ceramic ovens in all the rooms. So until 10 years ago, actually, which was quite late even for Berlin standards, they just removed the oven. And until then, they took the coal, the charcoal, how do you say that? Put it in the oven and they had to make fire every morning to warm the flat. And now, of course, everything is everywhere, centralized heating. But before that, they use these ovens, making some particles circulating in the air, and also putting some color on the walls. And I think he was plus on this. On top of this, he was a heavy smoker. So when I had to redo all the walls, I had to take off all the finished part of the wall and redo again with plaster and paint a lot with specific color to get rid of the color of the oven and the smoking, and also to get rid of the old frames, because I think he developed a lot of photos and all the room was covered with photographs.
Oh, interesting.
But this I've never met him.
Oh.
I have no idea, but I just saw all the traces he left, And since I did all the walls, the doors, the flooring, everything, I felt I had a conversation with him. During this process.
It felt like you developed a relationship with the past tenant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And the first time I also still had some letters of him in the mailbox. So, I was like, this? Okay, he was interested in history, I found out. I think he liked history, taking photos. And then I think in the end I heard of the neighbors that he was quite old. And he just couldn't make it downstairs or upstairs again because he was too old. And he was alone, So this is why he moved out in the end. Because the old building, this different standards for old buildings, than for new building. New built buildings, of course, in this case, they have an elevator.
If he is living in here from the 80s, that means before the Berlin Wall came down in 1989.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So it's quite interesting. So when we entered this apartment for the first time, I remember I was not even, in Berlin these days, you have to have a lot of time to find an apartment. You have to really apply for many flats because there's not enough, many people coming. And I was not even looking for a flat. It was more like coincidence. And then I came, I just had a look at it. I thought, okay, it's nice rooms, nice ceilings, nice. I saw the potential, let's say. It was really run down, but I thought it has a nice atmosphere. And it was also a bit like a time travel.
Yeah.
Like more like a Berlin in the 90s, or even my childhood memories, something like around the time when the wall came down. No? When I was just a very small kid.
Yeah.
No? When I visited my grandparents or something like that. Something was in the air. You know what I mean?
Mm. That means that he actually maintained kind of similar lifestyle for maybe 40 years. So this apartment still feel like captured the atmosphere in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
So the thing is, like, you found many layers. In the beginning, there was still the old bathtub, which was made of iron. So this is actually, I think it was the original bathtub from 1910 when this apartment was built. So it was even, I mean, this was in German terms the Weimar era, no, where we still had an emperor, right?
Yeah, the Kaiser.
The Kaiser, we had the Kaiser.
Friedrich.
Exactly. And then Wilhelm, right? Yeah, the Kaiser. And we had the First World War. We had the golden age of Berlin, the 20s, no?
Yeah.
The Second World War, then the GDR, and it's all kind of, I found traces of all of these eras. So I had the old original bathtub, which was so heavy. They promised me, okay, you will get a new bathtub. The golden 20s, around that time we started with the kitchen and we did the bedroom and the living room. And in the end we thought, okay, it's only the little corridor left. Right? It's the smallest room now where you enter. And then it was the most painful room of all of them.
Why?
I had to peel off 4 or 5 layers of wallpaper. The first layer on the top on the wall was a brown background.
Yeah.
With silver lily flowers.
That's just from the golden 20s,
I think something like the Art Deco, Jugendstil stuff, one of them, typical Jugendstil pattern, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And this was all in the corridor. And this wallpaper was still made of like something like aluminium foil. So when you try to get it down, it's almost 100 years. It's 100 years old, right? It has always been there. And a friend was also coming over. I had a lot of friends helping me.
Yeah.
Because I did a lot of the renovation by myself, because I will help you. I will do this. And then she took really tiny pieces of this aluminium wallpaper off, because of course it wraps in many parts when you try to get it off.
That's so crazy, because you can find so many layers just in one apartment.
Yeah. Then, of course, the GDR was very present. Some electricity stuff, and also the way the cables were from GDR times. In the bathroom, we had old pipes. The old cables, they break more easily.
Yes.
So when you touch them, you have to take care not to break them, because then it doesn't work anymore. Now, these days, modern cables are a little bit more flexible, and also the way consents look like. So we opened the consent and we saw, okay, this is a time travel to the GDR.
Yeah. What is the constant?
Basically distributor of the electricity cables. The way they put them together, you just see, okay, this is GDR. It was, clear.
Interesting. What kind of other evidence you found from GDR time?
There was also, for example, very obviously the tiles around the bathtub. It was this typical pastel colors, very light yellow, very light blue, and they were a bit mixed up and around the bathtub, and this was very typical of the GDR. In the GDR, it was not so easy to get tiles, people say,
Why?
Because there was just not so much available, right? So people had to have some connections, and ask friends, do you know someone, or they had to apply and wait. So tiles were something special, in the old days. And there were also not so many kinds like now, So you had a couple of, also not so many formats, It was the same format with a couple of colors, and then you just took what you could get, basically.
That's how you recognize the tiles from GDR.
Yeah. I think for also one very big detail, actually, or not even a detail, very main core thing was all the wooden floors. So now here we have some proper thickness of wooden floors, which were actually cut off in the local forest around Berlin. when all these buildings were made, this is the Altbau flat. And all, Berlin well, so Berlin is full of Altbau, no? Like this is the typical Berlin style house, but these houses for European standards, they're quite new, right? If you go to Paris, you find buildings like this, which come from almost the Middle Age, 16th centuries, and they're still like shifting a bit, becoming less horizontal, but they're older. And here, I think the special thing about Berlin is all these apartments were quite much built up around from 1850, 60 to 1910. I think this is one of the latest buildings in the end. And then they stopped this kind of housing style because in the 20s it shifted more into the modern housing style, with new ideas. But all these houses were basically built up in let's say, 60, 70 years. And they had all this very specific flooring, and you can take off some millimeters easily, and then it's like new. So I think this wooden flooring is, you can take it for another 200, 300 years now.
That's so crazy. That is something that I wouldn't know in modern apartment, because they sell those very thin, like less than 1 centimeter floor. So is it just for like one generation? If you want to like redo the floor, you actually have to take everything out in order to put a new layer. But I have never heard of somebody would polish the floor and then to make it reusable again.
Yeah, I think in Europe we can do it now. I think also in Paris, for sure they will do it now. Because in the old days, they just had these thicker, they had more material available still, They still had all the forests, all the region around Berlin, Brandenburg was full of this wood. So they took it and this typical Berlin flooring. Basically then around the wartime when many apartments were empty, I think also many people thought, okay, it's so run down, let's remove it. You actually can polish it. Why do we remove it? And, but the thing is also it's easier to demolish it, put some new stuff, than to let somebody come and polish, because it's a bit like a parallel world of hell. It's very, very loud. Very big sound. It's really like all the time. You have to really protect your ears, otherwise you go completely crazy. It's impossible. And then everywhere is dust,
Yeah.
Everywhere is dust, but then in the end it's completely doable. Sometimes you have a bit tricky if the floor bends, We have also in Berlin the outer walls is stone, which is also quite long lasting actually, And then also the inside usually is made of wooden construction, So sometimes when the wood bends, then you have a bit of a problem with some floors that they bend, and then you have to make it all even, So you have to also make it. This is a bit the tricky thing with the polishing.
You have to measure the level.
Basically, you have to, if you have a wooden beam and it bends, usually it bends a bit in the middle, so you have this little, like a valley in between. This you have to level again. Well, this takes a bit of time because you have to take a machine and make it all even again to get in these areas in between. Because this is why sometimes you have a little bit of reddish color left, you see. On my floor, every day I'm happy because it's so soft compared to some other finishing, which is more hard and covers the wood completely. The oil sinks into the wood and leaves the softness, behind, And the usual finishing, what is more cheaper again or more easier, because oil takes a bit of time to dry, Usually also everybody who doesn't have to live in the same place by himself would of course prefer something that dries as fast as possible, So you can proceed, Right?
Yes.
But then it's also again in these other things, just to give an example, is like if you scratch with your chair on the surface, then it will get little holes, And if there's some water, I drop some water, it goes into this little hole, into this little scratch. And then you have water under this normal finishing. And then it will become gray. Then you have to do it again. When you use oil, it sinks into the surface of the wood. And you know how oil is also on the skin, It's more open, the surface.
Yes.
So it's softer, and also even if you spill water or you have a little scratch, it's not only the surface which is the oil, but it's in the like little bit like the surface of the wood is a bit like drowned, no, by the oil, no.
It's soaked, the oil.
Yes, soaking. So this is the word, no. So it's soaking, and you have this matte, very nice finishing for the feet. It's more warm on the feet, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's such an investment of time and money.
Yeah, so it's less the money, it's more the time, no? So basically it makes, because somebody has to do it, and in Europe we have quite high working hour pay rate, right? So this is what it makes it expensive, no? And then of course it's also loud and dirty, so nobody really wants to do it, no? It's more comfortable to demolish and put something new, no? You don't have the dirt, you don't have the sound.
Yeah.
No, but the outcome is very nice, no? I mean, it's very, in a way, it's very sustainable, I could say. It's very long term, no? Because you don't need new wood, you don't need to cut new wood, right? You don't need to use new resources, you don't need to throw away. Wherever you find a new building in another decade after, then you can be sure that the bomb was dropped there. So because the city around the wartime was so full of buildings, we had courtyards. We have very famous examples that were up to 8 courtyards. No, so you enter in this block typology of building. You have one courtyard, another one, like up to 8. No, sometimes you still see like 4. No, in Kreuzberg in some buildings, 4 or 5. And
why is like the arrangement like that? Why you have so many courtyards?
I mean, basically the front houses, so it's like a block, no? It's a closed block. This is the structure of the city or of that time. And the front house, the front facade that faces the street was basically having the most spacious apartments, no? You had up to like 5 rooms, 6 rooms, more rooms. And these were mostly for the more privileged people, no?
Yeah.
Like people working at a bank or working for the state, or, no? They had the salon or just a dining room and another living room, and they had a room for their kids. So they had many big rooms.
Yeah.
And then basically with these side wings and the back wings, the flats became smaller. And the workers lived in the back houses. And Berlin grew as a city when basically all this industrialization came into its biggest power around this 19th century. You know, they had all these manufacturing coming into Berlin, and they were producing a lot of stuff, so they needed workers. And actually, I think there's crazy numbers about this, that the city grew like double or even tripled its number of inhabitants within 50 years. And this is why they had to build all these apartments here, and also backyards, and add to have enough housing for all the workers coming. And they needed these workers to be there, no, to do the industrialization and all the economy going up. So in a way, it was the same problem as now. They didn't have enough flats. They had to think of something, and then they made modules, like of housing, and build it up. But of course, the courtyards, the deeper you went, the darker it got, no, in some corners.
Yeah.
In Berlin, housing typology is very famous. When you have this block, no, the corners are very difficult. We say it's the Berliner Zimmer, the Berliner room, because there's only one window. My neighbor has one next to me. Basically, if you have a room like this, there's one window here, and then the rest, there is no window, so it's quite dark. This is always the corner. In the more modern typology, you would try now to put the staircase into the corner or something, you know, to get, because you have a certain depth in the building, and then you have to kind of put something into the darkest corner where everybody could agree, you know, that it's okay to put it there. But so basically the system was meant to be like, okay, everybody is there's rich people and also less rich people or poor people living in the same area. And they don't have to walk a long way to get to work, no? Because this is mixed usage, no? There's no big manufacturer outside the city that you take 1 hour to go to work. No, it's all integrated into the system, no?
I understand. So it's a very interesting living circle. So you imagine you have this courtyard which has different kind of layers. So it's like basically a shape of square. So you go deeper into this courtyard, like that means the later the building was being built. And then they are the people, maybe not originally from Berlin, but maybe they are workers from outside of Berlin.
Yeah, I think so, yes. Yeah,
and that is really clever. So that means that you have different kind of manufacturing shops, like on the ground floor, like for different needs.
Yeah, right. This is right, no? So you had everything. Yeah, and this, I guess this was an advantage in the old days. And of course, then when you have added up too many courtyards, of course, you get a lot of problems. I mean, like today, if you don't have enough flats, problems happening, no? I think there was like a very ironic saying, or I once read that people, in the worst time, people were renting out their beds during daytime.
Oh, wow.
You know, so maybe it's Berlin history, no, that we have this problem that people come like in one moment in a rush, and then suddenly everybody needs to have a flat and live somewhere, you know, and then weird things appear, no, that they raise the rent, or like, you know, that hygienic standards, no, this is also difficult, no, so at the time, no, hygienic families, no, living in 2 small apartments then, no. Or like what if you have a fire, how do you get out like immediately out of the 6th courtyard if there's a fire, you know? So,
that would be the question.
So I think this is why today we have like like ideas of social housing, we have ideas of very strict fire regulations now. Also, this wall outside there is this typical fire wall in Berlin. We have to be very strict about this, because if there's a fire, you have to somehow get out of there. And I think they had a lot of problem, no, in the old days. So, like, Berlin was bombed, like, many bombs dropped, and then you had, like, carpet with tons of holes, no? Like, something like that. And then this is why when you walk through Berlin today, you see it's not this perfect closed structure. It's like sometimes you have only one side wing, or you have 2. Because then after the Second World War, of course, we needed housing, but actually the government was not so sure about keeping these houses. They had, like, when you Google, like, when you try to find some images, you see that, I mean, some apartments or walls were missing, or you had a big hole in the floor, no? I mean, this situation after the Second World War, I think in Berlin was really, really bad, you know. The city everything was run down. And as I said before with the flooring, it's always more work to repair than to make something new. Because when you make something new, everything is clean, no? Yeah. You demolish, you bring everything somewhere, you throw it away, you make it clean. But when you start off, the flooring here is missing. You have a big circle now, the bomb hit it, and then you have like 3 meters boom or more. Is the static stable, no? Is the structure still working? You have to check, no? How does it work? You have to adjust the beams of the flooring. You have to edit again, no? So this is much more work than to make just everything new, no? It's always like that. If you have a lot of old cables in the wall, you wish you had a new wall, you just put new cables and it's fine, you know? You know, it's always because you have to adjust so many more things. No? You have to find a solution first, and of course, every corner is different. No, so here maybe the flooring is missing now because something happened, but there's maybe the wall or the roof. You know, so I think there were plans on both sides of Berlin, in the east and in the west, to demolish the Altbau and make new housing. And in West Berlin, they even went on the street, in Kreuzberg in the 80s, and said, no, don't demolish this quartier, this area, because we want to live here. We like this. We want to repair. We have high ceilings. We have old windows. Everything is wooden, and we like this. Please keep it. We will repair. And people really went on the street. I have friends who did that, and they still live in this apartment. They renewed everything from the 80s.
Is that like a social movement? Like everybody has this kind of conscience that they want to repair things? Or this is more like specific group, like a group of architects or a group of people who work in this specific area. They know how to repair the building. They know how to repair the apartment they want on the street.
I think it's also like it's always there's two things. One thing is for sure that Berlin has always attracted like a specific audience.
Yeah.
West Berlin, we say it was an island, no? Because it was an island in the east, in the GDR. So basically, you had to take the train through the GDR or airplane over the GDR to get there. And who wanted to live in this little piece of city with a wall going around? Only artists, students, and people who didn't want to go to military service. So all quite open people who didn't care so much about probably money, who really want to go there because they wanted to, or they didn't mind, you know. But no normal family with a newborn baby and a nice, decent job, they would have just lived in Berlin in this rundown city where everything's ruins and, you know, they would stay in the west of Germany and just build a new house, no, in the suburb. So when you moved to Berlin, I think you got some welcome money and you didn't need to do this civil service, you know.
Ah, interesting.
You know, so some people say, I don't want to do it, so I moved to Berlin, and then they didn't have to do it. And then they studied in Berlin, you know.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah. So it's a weird audience at the time already, no? I think it was not the average society. But then also, and then the second thing is always, if you talk about, is it only professionals doing this? I think it's also connected to money, no? Like, when you build something completely new, it always costs more money than before.
Yeah,
right?
So you need investors.
You need investors and the whole package of this system, right? So, and in Berlin, we had the GDR on the one side and the other system on the other side. So there was always a discussion about the two systems, right? Because it's so close. No? And I think there was a lot of, maybe some more space of experiments, no?
Yeah.
And thinking about these models, no? And in Berlin, they had a long culture of squatting, no?
Yeah.
Just entering like as a community into these big front house apartments, no? When there's no more rich people living in the front house, you had big, large apartments, no? And then why live there alone? It doesn't make sense. They lived there with friends.
Collectively, yeah.
Yeah, more collective. I think these collective ideas were quite strong. And then, of course, when you want to repair a house, if you don't have money, you need to do it yourself, and then you need your friends, no? Or collective, and you do it together. So I have a friend who renovated a big front house apartment with his now wife and all the neighbors who are living there now. They repaired it. They even scratched off the color of the decoration, no? The ceiling elements, no? It was all painted white, or with some painting, at some point somebody painted again, and then they scratched off and they found flowers and little angels, no? And they were all colored originally. So they scratched off all the color and now it's all the color again, you know? Like the original color, you know?
Interesting.
But this is a lot of work, you know? But it makes it so beautiful and unique as well, you know? So this is an individual's choice.
But I have a very specific question. Maybe this comes with a stereotype. We were born in a time where everything was manufactured with grand quantities, you know, aka made in China. We get used to buy things if the things the quality is bad or it's broken, we throw it away, then we buy a new thing. Yeah. That same thing with everything, with table, with chairs, with those furnitures, but also with electronic devices. But I found it after I moved to Germany, I found in Germany, there's this very old beliefs, or this is a stereotype that you repair things, that one thing could last 20 years or even more decades, like German qualities. Is that something in the education system that would teach people or influence people to repair things. So people have this ideology in their mind. They don't just throw things away.
I think people come from GDR for sure because they had less things, so they had to appreciate them more.
Yeah.
I remember my mother bought once a little Chanel powder for her cheeks, and then this little plastic thing broke and she couldn't close or open it anymore.
Yeah.
And my parents both grew up in the GDR, and my father, okay, I will repair it. This little plastic piece, and he put the little screw and made it work again. I think this is super crazy, but I think he grew up with the fact there were not so many things, but also in his city where many things were already made and also left behind, as a heritage,
Oh.
So you live in a world that was given to us by a previous generation, And then you add the things. And if you have less things, you have to think about it more, How to manage with the few things you have. I think in the west of Germany it's a bit different. I think we also have all this culture of throwing away when it's broken. But it's now, there's nothing about we have to repair, blah, 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 what they teach you in schools. But we have to some extent, this approach of critical thinking to
judge things.
Not judge, but not judging, but we love to be a little bit grumpy about why is this like this? Why? And I remember when I went abroad first time, you German people always ask why?
Yeah.
And we say it's
1,000 questions.
We have a saying is to ask holes into the belly. So if a kid comes to you in German, it's always warum, wieso, weshalb? It all means why. We have many words to say why. And then you can say to the kid, don't ask me holes into my belly.
How to say that in
mir
German?
keine Löcher in den Bauch.
Ah.
So I think this is a bit, maybe this kind of, and then of course we lost also, we had to rebuild all the city already in Berlin, for example, also all the other cities in Germany, we had to repair anyway. This is also, I think, one thing, we had to repair, always throwing away everything. If we had thrown and demolished everything that was broken during the war, I think we would just have completely built a new city. And of course, if you compare to Italy or France, Germany looks pretty new, no?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming back to Berlin. I hope you visit us more often.
Okay, thank you so much for listening and watching. I will see you every Sunday at 10 a.m. We are available on YouTube Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Pocket Podcasts. See you. Ciao, ciao. Ciao.